the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. Together, reducing fraud worldwide.
In my mind, information security covers not only digital information and assets of the company, but covers all information of the company. And I'm not sure my mind is the technical definition out there, but information security is more broad in scope. Cybersecurity, to me, is a subset of information security. And with cybersecurity, you're focused on the digital information. You're focused on protecting that information, the confidentiality and integrity of that information, and detecting if there's been a breach of that information and remediating that breach. And determining the scope of what might be possible if there has been a breach, what information's been breached, and how that might be used to damage or hurt the company. The speed of technological change has increased on a polynomial curve, and the number of access points has changed exponentially. But back in the 90s, remote access meant there were some laptops out there that via a wire were accessing the system. And you could use kind of old monitoring, old audit logs to see who had accessed the system. Now we've gone to the wireless world, and now literally out there, there are billions of iPads and cell phones, and companies have to make decisions. How do those devices connect? Because the points of contact have increased exponentially, and so the points of accessibility to your information have increased exponentially. I think part of the solution is going to be machine learning. It's going to be, traditionally you had individuals that had to monitor audit logs, system logs. And frequently when I would get involved in fraud investigations, you'd find that the logs existed, it's just nobody was looking at them on a regular basis. So now if you think about it, the information flow has increased, like I said, polynomially, and it's become even more burdensome. In some cases, I would say impossible for humans to do that review of those systems. So there are systems that are out there that are being developed and are on the market where that monitoring is done by a machine. We now have machines monitoring the machines, but what it uses is algorithms and things to look for, based on historical traffic, what looks unusual. Identify the needle in the haystack, if you will. So then to bring that to the surface, and then that can be reviewed by somebody in internal audit, or somebody in the IT department, or somebody in management. But to help vet this huge mountain of information we have, to now identify, is there some unusual or anomaly in the pattern of data that indicates some kind of malfeasance or something nefarious? We see a lot of phishing going on. At a client of mine recently, one day the payroll department received an email from the CEO's email address saying, hey, I need the payroll records, the last month's payroll. And that employee thought wisely and hesitated, and although that employee didn't have a direct line to the CEO, reached out to somebody who did and said, hey, I got this email, does that make sense? And I think that was a common email a few months back, or maybe it's been about a year back, but hackers had been able to duplicate the email addresses of people high up in the organization and solicit information from people in the company. And if the individual's email address that's soliciting the information is a direct report to the CEO, then there's some probability that somebody's going to respond to that and involuntarily send company confidential information out to the hacker. We had another company that had somebody just click on something that installed some malware, and what it ended up doing was allowing access to their server. Now what the perpetrators, the bad guys, were doing was actually storing information on that server. They were dealing with black market Xbox video games, believe it or not. And they were just using the server to store those games as they were then transmitting them out to whoever they were selling them on, on the internet.